There is a moment when control stops being about necessity and starts being about impatience. When systems designed to work overtime are suddenly treated like they should produce results on demand. I was reminded of this recently by something mundane: a locked laundry room. Not because of danger, but because interference ruins the process. Open the door too early and everything slows down. Heat escapes. Progress reverses. Some things cannot be rushed without breaking them. That principle applies cleanly to engineering. It applies to economics. And it applies to geopolitics. Because right now, the world's most powerful military alliance is interfering with a system that was built to function on patience and trust. And the result is not efficiency, but instability. They need time. And that's funny when you are a parent. It is much less funny when you are a nation-state. Because right now, that is exactly what is happening with Greenland. NATO is slowly, painfully, coming to the realization that it may have to deploy troops to defend Greenland from another NATO ally, the United States. European countries are now sending military personnel to Greenland as Donald Trump continues to insist that he needs the tiny Arctic nation. Needs it, for reasons that are never fully explained. And this is insane for a long list of reasons. Trump is not just provoking Europe. He is forcing NATO to contemplate defending an entirely new front, not against Russia, not against China, but against itself. And what makes this even more surreal is that both Trump's allies and his adversaries are suddenly insisting that Greenland has some kind of overwhelming military importance. The level of absurdity here is so high, it feels like living in a parallel universe. Like we have wandered into a geopolitical version of a toddler logic spiral. Maybe they should take advice from my 2-year-old. Daddy will come get you when the clothes are dry. I swear. So here is what is happening. European countries are sending small numbers of troops to Greenland as Denmark announces plans for a larger, more permanent NATO presence. Not to defend against Russia, not to defend against China, but to secure the island from the United States. Officially, these deployments are described as preparation for future military exercises. Unofficially, they are a message, a very clear one. And while the numbers are small, the significance is enormous. Because this is the same logic Europe is debating in Ukraine. Ukraine has been pushing hard for a European peacekeeping force as part of any peace deal. Not because that force could defeat Russia militarily. Russia currently has roughly 800,000 troops committed to the war. A proposed European force might be 30,000. 30,000 Europeans are not going to defeat 800,000 Russians. History jokes aside, the real purpose is something darker and more cynical. It is a tripwire. The logic is simple. Europeans sleep just fine knowing Ukrainians are dying. They sleep much less well knowing their own sons and daughters are. 1,000 dead French soldiers. 1,000 dead Germans. That changes politics overnight. It creates skin in the game. And that is exactly what NATO is now doing in Greenland. Planting a tripwire, not against Moscow, against Washington. The Danish Prime Minister already said it plainly. An attack on Greenland would mean the end of NATO. And that is not hyperbole. NATO cannot survive a situation where its members are forced to choose sides in a conflict between two allies. That is existential. That is the alliance tearing itself apart in public. Russia, of course, loves this. NATO resources meant to deter aggression in the Baltics are now being redirected to Greenland. To stand in the snow and hope nothing happens. And yes, it is easy to mock European militaries. We do it all the time. But here is the real problem. Trade. This is a chart of the United States' largest export partners. The current administration may hate trade, but the American economy absolutely depends on it. Manufacturing depends on it. You cannot be an export-led economy without exports. And who do we export to? The European Union, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, the Netherlands, South Korea, Australia, NATO. You see the issue. Even if Europe cannot challenge the United States militarily, it can destroy the White House's entire economic vision overnight. You do not threaten the people who buy your products. And political restraint disappears very quickly once European troops start dying. Has any of this caused the administration to pause? To rethink? No. Instead, the White House is posting AI-generated nonsense. Literal slop. 2 dog sleds. 1 choice. Join us or join China and Russia. That is the false choice. Greenland is not part of Russia. Greenland is not part of China. Greenland is already part of NATO. The United States says it needs Greenland for national security. 2 words that mean absolutely nothing on their own. Russia uses the exact same language. What does that mean? A missile base? We already have one. A space base? We already have that too. We had larger bases during the Cold War. Why not reactivate them? If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. That is nonsense. NATO does not allow adversaries to build bases in member territories. Name 1 Russian base in a NATO country. Name 1 Chinese base. They do not exist. And it is not just Republicans. Senator John Fetterman says Greenland has massive strategic benefits. What benefits? He cannot say. He suggests forcing Greenland to sell. Forcing. That is called coercion. And who exactly are you buying it from? The people live there. You cannot buy a country like it is real estate. If Greenlanders say no, the answer is no. If there is a plan, missiles, domes, space weapons, tell the taxpayers. We are paying for it. And if China is preparing to invade Greenland, show us the evidence. Release something. Anything. Otherwise, this is fantasy. Teleporting Chinese divisions across the Arctic Circle. Give me a break. This is not strategy. This is not leadership. This is madness. And Congress just nods along. At some point, we should seriously consider cognitive screenings for people making decisions like this, because no one is even pretending to make a coherent case anymore.